Hello and welcome back to the channel on our continuing voyage to become better blues players. My name's Mark, and in this lesson we're going to look at what is probably the most important technique as a blues player, and that is bending notes. So the way this video is going to work, you're going to see me play an example solo using, I think it's 7 bending licks, or licks that use bends, all in different ways, and then we'll come back on the other side. I'll talk you through the different techniques that I use, the different ways you can bend notes, and then I'll teach you all of the licks one by one. There's a backing track available and there's tab as well. So I'll see you on the other side. Here's the example solo. So that was the solo there. Now, if you'd like, there is a copy of the tab that is available for free. See the description and the details below. Basically, send me an email and I'll send you the tab back. You have to include the name of the lesson, and this is Essential Bend Licks, something like that. Anyway, have a look in the description below. The tab has to be paid for. I don't produce it myself. So that is paid for by the Patreons and those who contribute to the PayPal tip jar. So a big thank you for them for financing the production of the tab. I can't read and write tab myself, but hey, there you go. Right, so on with the lesson. Before we get into the individual licks, let's have a look at some of the specific techniques that are being used. Blues is an unusual style when it comes to bends because we bend in lots of different ways. We use bends so much. It's a very expressive way of playing, and so you get lots of different types of bends. So I'll take you through what are the essential bending techniques for a blues player. Well, the first one is that we bend up a whole tone, and usually we're in the key of E, by the way, for this lesson, and I'm pretty much almost exclusively sticking to the E minor pentatonic scale. So I'm going to grab this note here, what's that, 15th fret of the B string, and I'm going to bend that up off the whole tone. Actually, just bend it and just... Okay, so what I'm doing there is I'm bending it up to whole tone, and the important thing is it reaches this pitch here. They have to be the same pitch. If you're going for one of those bends and you don't reach the pitch, you'll go slightly flat. See, it just sounds horrible. You have to get it to pitch. Okay, you have to get it all the way to pitch. The easiest way to tell the difference between an experienced player and an inexperienced player is their bending. Inexperienced players, newbies, never quite bend to pitch. I don't know whether it's just can't quite hear it, can't quite get it in your fingers aren't quite strong enough. For the first couple of years when I was playing, I never quite bent to pitch. Actually, recording on my first album, first thing the producer said to me is, you got to get your bending to pitch correctly, because I was slightly out. I was always slightly flat. It's very, very common. So if you want to sound like a good guitar player, make sure you get those bends actually to pitch. Possibly use a tuner to make sure that you're getting them to pitch, or use your ear to make sure you're getting up to the correct notes. So I'm bending this D here up to this, become this E. So this D becomes this E. Okay, and you bend it until you get it there. Okay, so bending up a whole tone is a really important thing to do in the blues. Actually, not just in the blues, that is a bending technique that all genres of music use. So when we bend, as you probably heard me do there as well, there's other things we can do. We can bend and then repick. We can bend and shake it. We can bend, shake it, and repick. So that would be like this. Okay, so you get that kind of thing going on. Those are all things that you want to be able to practice. Bending up a whole tone to pitch, bending up and holding it, shaking it, repicking, those kind of things, all essential for playing blues. Okay, let's have a look at, you can do that on that note there is a really good one. If we're playing in E minor, that's a great note to bend and hold up a whole tone. But you can also do it with this one here, 15th fret of the top E string, particularly when you go up to the when the chord changes to the 4 chord, and you can do it with this one here, 14th fret of the G string, which should get you this pitch. Okay. Okay, getting a little bit ahead of myself there. So those notes you can bend up a whole tone. These notes that you play with your index finger, don't try bending those up a whole tone. Number one, it's very hard, and number two, it doesn't sound very good when you're in box position 1. Also, when we get to the root note, which is this 14th fret of the D string, don't bend that one, just shake it. Okay, that one you want to shake. All the others on the 15th and the 14th on the E, B and G string, you can bend up a whole tone. You can bend them up and bring them down. You can bend them up and hold them. You can just bend them and kill them dead. So bend and kill them dead would be like this. Bend and hold would be like this. Bend up and bring down would be like this. Okay, so you get those kind of things. So lots of things we've already done, just bending up a whole tone. We can also bend up half a tone. You would only really do this in box position 1 on the 14th fret of the G string. If you bend that up a half tone, you get the flat 5. So you get this note here. Okay, now you don't kind of play that one by itself because it sounds dirty. What you want to do is you want to kind of bend up to it and come back down, which is kind of the equivalent to doing this. So you're hearing that difference between going up a whole tone when we're getting as high as this note here, and only going up half a tone when we're getting this one here. Okay, and you need to be able to control that. So practice being able to hit those two pitches, whole tone, half a tone. Okay, so what we can also do is with our index finger, we can bend up half a tone, index finger on the G string when we're in box position 1. So you're bending up this note here to be the equivalent to this note here. Okay, now this is something Stevie Ray Vaughan would use a lot. And actually, if you think of box position 2, so box position 2, root note now is B string, where are we, 17th fret. And we go 17 and 15 on the top E string. You can bend up that 15th half a tone as well. Now, Stevie Ray Vaughan would actually bend that one up a whole tone as well, so you get this. So you can do those kind of things as well. That, particularly for a beginner, really hard kind of bending with your index finger to go any more than a semitone. Okay, so we're starting now to get in towards dirty bends. And dirty bends is when we're not going up to a particular note. We're not kind of going and holding at a correct pitch. We're kind of just bending away. I often refer to this as bending away. So everything we've been looking at so far is bending up to a note. Now we're starting at a note and bending it away. So you can do that. This works really well on the flat third, which is the G string where your index finger is, so 12th fret in this case because we're in G. But the thing with a dirty bend is you don't hold it because they sound dirty. So you want to kind of make it, what you're doing is you're adding tension. And the whole thing with music, particularly blues, which borrows from jazz, is you want to go tense and release. So you want to make this flat third here as tense by dragging it sharp, literally dragging it out of tune, but you're not going to hold it because you're immediately going to come off to the root note, which is 14th fret of the D string. and that's going to serve as our resolve. Okay, so you're going to go tense and resolve. Okay, now that idea of the dirty bend where you're pushing it note so it becomes tense, it's out of tune, it sounds dirty, and then resolve to another note. You can do that with top E string 15th fret to the root, which is the 12th fret. You can do the same on the B string, 15th resolving to 12. You can do 15 resolving to 12 on a top E string as well. So I'll take you through those. So just on the top E string, we can get this. Always having to come back and resolve. Doing the same thing on the B string. And now doing B string 15th fret resolving to 12th fret of the top E string. Okay, and sometimes you can hold that and then push it dirty. Sometimes you can push it dirty immediately. You can go dirty slowly. You can go dirty quickly. All of those little subtle differences between them is what makes it the blues. That's what you get the emotion in the playing. It's one of the ways you can get emotion in your playing, by just varying all those things. So when you practice all those different subtle ways of making your bends slightly different. The important thing with these dirty bends, as I say, is you always resolve to a good note. So a good note to resolve to is that top E 12th fret or the 12th fret of the B string, or you can resolve to the root note 14th fret of the D string if you are bending, you're doing any of those dirty bends on the 12th fret of the G string. So you get this. Okay, and that's something that's very, very common to blues. That idea of that dirty bend resolving to usually the root, but it doesn't have to be. The root being, in this case, E, because we're in the key of E. That's what the root means. Okay, now, going on a level, one of the other things you'll see in the solo is the idea of double stop bends. A double stop, very simply, means playing two strings at once. Okay, so we're going to grab the 12th fret on the G and B string and also the 14th fret on the G and B string. And I'm using my index finger and my ring finger for this. And what we're essentially doing there is we're just doubling up what we'd normally do on the G string. So that kind of thing you could do with double stops. And you can do that kind of thing. Essentially, as I say, just doubling up whatever you'd normally do on the G string by adding that B string in as well. And you'll notice on the B string, we're actually stepping out of our minor pentatonic a little bit. And I told you earlier that we were doing that a little bit as well. Okay, so those are kind of lots of different ways that blues players use bends. Bending up to a note, bending away from a note, slow bends, fast bends, bend and repick, bend and hold, bend and shake, all of those kind of things. Lots and lots of different ways of essentially playing the same 5 notes. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to take that apart and show you it as, or rather, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the solo apart and show you that, because that brings in a lot of these bends and it gives you something to practice to. Now, if you're getting value from these lessons and you appreciate them and you feel like they're helping your playing, well, you might want to consider becoming a member of the Patreon supporters group. On Patreon, there's extra bonus content and things like that. If you're just getting value from this and you want to show your appreciation, I also have a PayPal tip jar. If you want to look into both of those things, details are in the description below. Thank you to those who support through the tip jar and through Patreon, because they pay for the lights, the camera, the ongoing running costs of the channel, and the tab and all of those things as well. Okay, so let's go into the actual solo now. We're going to start with lick 1. And lick 1 actually comes in, there's 2 bars that start, there's an E to a B7, so there's an E7 to a B7, and then the solo starts proper, and it's just a regular 12-bar blues in E. And lick 1 goes like this. Okay, and so what we've got is we've got a bend up to pitch starting 15th fret of the B string, bend that up a whole tone, which will give you the same pitch as 12 on the top E string, and you're going to hit that 12 on the top E string twice, so you get this. Okay, and then we're going to take 15 on the top E, bend that upper whole tone back off to 12 before grabbing 15 on the B string again, bending that, holding it and shaking it. So the whole lick, nice and slow, will go like this. So that was lick 1. Lick 2 now goes like this. So lick 2 now is a really essential lick that's very common. Loads of blues players play this or some variation on it. What we're going to do is we're going to take 14th fret of the G string, bend it up a whole tone, bring it back down, come off to 12 on the G string, and then hit 14 on the D string, which is our root. So that's the first half. So far we've got this. Okay, and you want to do that as one solid movement. So we're only picking the G string once. Everything else is either a bend or a pull off. So we go up, we come back down, and then we pull off to 12. And then we hit 14 on the D. Okay, so that's the first part of the lick. The second part of the lick then, I grab 12 again, bend it ever so slightly sharp before coming up to 14 again, which is our root. And then I play 12 and 12, so that's G string and B string, and I'm pulling that slightly dirty again. So the whole lick, nice and slow, goes like this. And I think I probably slid it off. I usually slide that one down. Again, you'll see just like tiny little bends in all of those. Okay, so that was lick 2, and that idea, that first bit though, you go up, down and off as one solid movement, very, very quick. You want to practice that because, as I say, that's the bit that, you know, every blues player uses. And you want to practice that so you're getting it, just work up that speed. Okay, so that was lick 2. Lick 3 now goes like this. Okay, it's those double stops. 12 on the G string and the B string. And when I'm doing these double stops, I'm using not quite the fleshy bit of your finger there. I'm using almost kind of the side. Now, normally, I always say, use your fingertips when you're playing, because if you use the kind of the fleshy part of your finger, the note's not going to ring that well. Well, it's hard to do that when you're doing these double stops. So I try to use slightly the side of my finger. Okay, first time you do that, it might be a little sore, it might feel uncomfortable. Just practice it, it'll get there. But what I'm basically doing is doing that twice, and then coming back off to the root 14 on the D string. Okay, so that was lick 3. Lick 4 now goes like this. Okay, repetitive lick, you've probably heard this or some variation on this many times. What I'm basically doing is, on the beat, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. I'm hitting 14 on the G string, bending it up a whole tone, and then immediately hitting on the and 12 on the B string. So it's a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. I think the very first time I hit them, I kind of hit both of them together. If I did, which I think I did, that was an accident, but it kind of sounds good anyway. It's kind of how I am when I do the performance for these lessons. Every time it's slightly different because it's kind of partially improvised, partially prepared, and so it's just the performance, how I play it on the day. So I think that very first one, I do hit both strings. You can or you can't, it's entirely up to you. But the important thing is that you bend, and up as you get up to pitch, you then hit the other string, and then you bend and hold, and as you get up to pitch, hit the other string again. It's very repetitive. So that was lick 4. Lick 5 now goes like this. Okay, and what I'm doing here again is starting by playing a lick essentially on one string and then using double stops to almost kind of to duplicate it as double stops. Okay, so we start 14 on the B string, on the G string rather, upper whole tone, 12 on the G string, up half a tone. It's not an exact half a tone. I'm thinking of it more of a dirty bend, but it's in there somewhere. And then coming off to root on the 14 on the D string. So far we get this, where you then shake that. And then I'm doing the same again. First of all, I'm grabbing 12, bending that dirty. That's 12 on the G and on the B string. And then I'm essentially repeating the lick again, which is 14 on the G and B. Bend that, just dirty. 12 on the G and B. Again, pull that dirty and then off to root. So that second part goes like this. And to me, I'm kind of thinking Stevie Ray Vaughan, because he did, a bunch of those kind of things. Hendrix did that kind of thing as well. So there's lots of players who play that kind of lick. Okay, so let's do the whole lick nice and slow. Okay, so that was, what was that? That was lick 5. Lick 6 now goes like this. Okay, so I put this lick in deliberately to give that difference between bending up to pitch, coming off and then taking the same note as well and bending it dirty. So we're going to start 15 on the top E string and we're bending that up to pitch, coming back down and then off to 12. And then we're going back to that note we started on. Instead of bending it up to pitch, we're going to bend it dirty and then come back off to our root note, 12 on the top E string. So all together. And then we're going to repeat the whole thing again, but this time on the B string. And the lick just emphasizes that difference between bending up to pitch and bending dirty, bending away. So bending into a note and bending away from a note, even though we're just doing it all on the 15th fret. Okay, hope that makes sense. So then we're up to lick 7. Lick 7 is the last lick, and that goes like this. Okay, I'll do it nice and slow. Okay, loads of little bendy things going on in here. We're going to start 14, bend that upper whole tone, and then grab top E on the 12th fret, which is the root note. Then we've got to pull off 15 to 12 on the B string before hitting 14 on the, where are we? G string, bending that upper whole tone, and then hitting 12, double stop, 12 on the B and top E together. Okay, so from the pull off, that goes like this. Okay, so describing it sounds way more complicated than it actually is. It's actually just this. Okay, then what we're doing is 14 on the G string and then 12 double stop on the G and B, bending that dirty. Okay. Now, with these double stops, you can kind of pull it down or you can push it up. So pulling it down would be like this. Pushing it up would be like this. It doesn't really matter. It kind of sounds the same. It's however you feel, whatever's more comfortable to you. Sometimes I mix them up. I'll be honest, I don't really think about it. Just kind of go dirty and my fingers do it. Okay, there we go. Then what we're doing is we're off to 14 on the D, 12 on the D, 14 twice on the A. Hold it and shake it. Okay, so lick 7 again. We're up to speed and then slow. We'll go like this. And nice and slow. Okay, so I hope you found this lesson useful. That should give you an example solo that's going to practice lots and lots of bends. So if you want to give your bending a real good workout, get these licks down, stick the backing track on and jam over it and see how you get on. Please leave me a comment, let me know how you're getting on with it. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe because I have more of these lessons coming out. I have a lesson coming out roughly every 2 weeks. If you're interested in the Patreon and the PayPal tip jar, please check out the description below. If you want a copy of the PDF of the tab, then again, see the description below, send me an email and I'll send you the tab in return. Just tell me the name of the lesson. That goes for pretty much all of the lessons, to be fair. Big thank you to the Patreon supporters and those who contribute to the PayPal tip jar, because that's what keeps this channel going and allows me to keep putting out videos to encourage you on your blues playing. Take care, and I'll see you again.